And good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Alma. I'm the Bob. And why is the sky silver? Let's hear from these people.
Canadian climate activist Sephora Berman, International Program Director at Stand.Earth and chair of the Fossil Fuel Non-Proliferation Treaty Initiative. Her most recent article for The Guardian titled, "Canada is on fire and big oil is the arsonist." You know, Sephora, here in the United States, we are hearing about the terrible effects, and we experience them in New York, of the air apocalypse caused by the Canadian wildfires. But we don't hear about how Canadians are dealing with these 500 wildfires. Can you talk about what's happening there and then this larger connection to the climate catastrophe?
Absolutely. Thanks, Amy. What's happening across the country is devastating. What we need to remember is that this is the beginning of wildfire season in Canada. So we have now, as you said, close to 500 fires burning across the country. Officials are saying at least 200 of them are out of control and could burn the entire summer. So there has been over 8 million hectares of forest destroyed already this fire season. That's about 20 million acres. 120,000 people have had to be evacuated and leave their homes. And of course, the smoke is choking people in Toronto and Ottawa and Montreal and now throughout the United States.
Sephora, could you elaborate? Let's go to the article that you wrote, "Canada is on fire and big oil is the arsonist." Could you elaborate? What are the points that you make there?
Well, just 2 weeks ago, new scientific research from the Climate Hub of the Union of Concerned Scientists made a direct and measurable link between the increase in wildfires, not only in Canada, but also in the United States, and the carbon emissions from major fossil fuel producers. In fact, they looked at the carbon major study, and they showed that there are 88 companies that are responsible for the emissions that are trapped in our atmosphere today and literally smothering the earth, causing this dramatic increase in wildfires, the heat domes that you talked about, the floods, extreme weather. And so these 88 companies are directly responsible for what we are experiencing right now. 13 of those companies are in Canada. We hear a lot about the smoke, but people aren't really talking about the fact that 86% of the emissions trapped in our atmosphere today, they come from 3 products: oil, gas, and coal. And the fossil fuel industry, it has been shown in courts across the world and in the United States that these companies knew. They knew what their products were going to do decades ago. They denied it. They delayed it. They delayed progress of policy. They're spending $500 million a year, and now and they've transition to cleaner, safer electricity systems, to cleaner, safer transit, ways to heat our homes without poisoning us. You know, in some ways, this is like big tobacco when they knew decades ago, except they're not just poisoning us, they're poisoning our whole families, and they're threatening the air we breathe and a stable climate.
And Sephora, could you speak in this context about the Trans Mountain Pipeline and the Trudeau administration's response to it?
You know, in a lot of ways, if you know, we talk about the big areas of carbon that are still underneath the ground, the oil, the fracked gas, the coal that is still underneath the ground as carbon bombs, and the Trans Mountain is one of the largest carbon bombs on the planet. What's really fascinating right now is that we're seeing investors pull away from major fossil fuel projects, not just in Canada, but around the world, because they know that renewables are cheaper, and they can see that climate policy is going to have to constrain fossil fuel projects if we're going to keep the world safe. And so investors pulled out of Trans Mountain, and the government turned around and funded it with public dollars. Now close to well over $20 billion of taxpayers' money has gone into this pipeline project that crosses 3,000 streams. That would be the if it goes forward, and right now it's being built, it's going to facilitate the expansion of the oil sands, which is one of the dirtiest oils on Earth. At a time when we know demand for oil is peaking and going down, because around the world we're moving to renewable energy and electric cars. But there was a time when we all thought with climate policy that if demand went down, then fossil fuels would just be constrained. But every government wants to be the last barrel sold. So they're keeping these projects alive, like Prime Minister Trudeau did, by subsidizing them or even outright buying them.
So,
and that's why. Sorry.
Sephora Berman, I want to ask you two last questions. I mean, clearly here the hope is activism. That's what changes things. You're a longtime Canadian activist. We're actually speaking to you in Cuernavaca, Mexico, not where you fled to. You're going back to Canada today, but where there is an environmental conference. Can you talk about that activism and also the Pathway Alliance's connection to the Canadian fossil fuel industry and their Let's Clean the Air campaign?
It's a particular kind of hubris that the Pathway Alliance right now is pushing ads across the country. Let's Clear the Air campaign.
And explain what the Pathway Alliance is.
So the Pathway Alliance is an association of some of the largest oil and gas companies in Canada. This is their new advertising campaign to try and convince people that they're part of the solution. But the fact is that we now have studies over the last month that show that the oil companies' net zero plans are meaningless. This week, Shell announced it's going to increase production. And the work of Influence Map has shown us that these companies are spending literally billions on advertising to show that they're green and they're investing in renewables and carbon capture. But the fact is that over 90% of their investment is in new oil and gas, expanding the problem. So, the fact is that these are the most powerful companies on Earth, and this lobby has been holding us back from addressing the climate emergency, and that's why it's critical that citizens stand up and call on.
Well, as far back as 1891, the oil companies knew this was going down. They had a big conference in Paris in 1891. Tesla, a number of others, were all going on about 0.3 electricity and wireless transmission of electricity. And J.P. Morgan and Rockefeller and other folks said, well, that's economically unfeasible, meaning they can't make a profit out of something that will motivate only through conflict and through violence the corporate state make a profit and primarily keep control. So let us call Coolman, see what Coolman is. Hey,
How you
Coolman.
doing, bud?
Oh, we're live on the show.
Okay. Hi, everyone.
And so what's going on in our oil-based economy is that this is very similar to the tobacco companies. They knew back in the 1890s that tobacco wasn't good for you, right? And,
Right.
And they continually, through advertising and propaganda and owning the politicians, kept to their product lucrative. Now, oil is the same thing. Right? They fought for a good 100 years to diss the idea that the use of oil was dangerous.
Right.
And right now, we're in the boardroom of Gulf Mineral Oil, and that's the guy's laughing.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And they think that, there's no big difference. They don't care. They're going to be in a nice little bolt hole or off planet, with Mr. Elon Musk,
Right. Yeah, that's it's written on the wall. You can see it. So what you're saying? See, personally, I don't think we'll ever. I think we'll always have oil. I think we'll always have tobacco.
Well, I mean, did you ever see the movie Blade Runner?
It's been so long. I feel like I know it.
The first one with Harrison Ford, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And there's this great scene where they are going to visit the billionaire guy who has all of the, made all of the clone workers, right?
Yeah.
And, he's flying there in a anti-gravity car, being electrically fed by 0-point energy, but they're flying across a view of never-ending oil refineries, and the whole sky. It's like, he just came from breakfast, and the sky is black.
Okay.
It's like 11 a.m. and the sky is black, and all you can see is, chimneys with fire coming out.
Okay.
And so that was, this is the year 2026-90, and we're still using oil.
Right.
We're all over the galaxy and on lots of different planets, but we're still using oil.
Right. I mean, that makes sense, right? That's what they want. That's how they operate. It's all agreed. It's all power.
There's this concept of that. One day we'll run out of oil. Not really. The planet manufactures oil is the synovial fluid of the planet.
Yeah, I heard someone say that recently, that oil is the Earth's blood.
Right. And it's not like, oh, it's dead. I mean, that was one of the scams. Sunoco came up with this in the 1890s. That's why they had the dinosaur as their logo.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Oil is not made from dead dinosaurs.
No. Dead dinosaurs. Let's just leave that shit over.
Right.
Oh, man. The whole dinosaur thing is...
It's interesting. A number of states are passing laws that economic inequality, or environmental reasons, that's all considered terrorism.
Wow. That's interesting.
Yes, about 20 states have passed laws of that nature. They haven't gone to court, but like Georgia is got that law, and they hired. They're building this gigantic military police facility in what's the big Georgia city? Atlanta, right?
Yeah.
They're building this big thing. So they're building it. They're wiping out 100 acres of old growth trees. Trees that have been around before Christopher Columbus, right?
Oh my God.
And they're taking that out and putting in this big military police facility. And so there've been kids camping out in trees and doing all of that. And so they had a big concert nearby where all the money was going to go to, pay for lawyers' bills and things of that nature. And, they basically killed a few people who were like, more in the area of the facility. But after they killed them, they just went over with a lot of SWAT teams and arrested everyone who was at that concert. That really had nothing. They weren't like marching. They weren't breaking any laws. They were just going to a concert, right? And, and they all got arrested, and they were all charged with terrorism.
Oh my God.
People who just went to hear some music got charged with terrorism.
I believe it, man. It happens so much now.
Yeah.
Because, the powers that should be are doubling down.
Hey, speaker into the microphone. I can't hear you.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say the powers that is that a little better? That better, Bob?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. The powers that shouldn't be are doubling down. Seems like recently, and because so many people are waking up. I feel like they really are flexing their power.
Well, it's
With all these
interesting.
arrests.
It's like what we were talking about earlier about all you have to do is just say no.
Exactly.
Nancy Reagan was right.
Yeah. Just say no. That's it. But people, they love living like this, and they love to struggle. They love talking about it with everyone, having a conversation piece besides what they're doing at their job.
Well, how many people really have a job that they like going to?
Right. I'd say about 1 out of 1,000.
I mean, I was very blessed that I always had a job that I enjoyed doing, and that my employer needed me more than I needed them. So I always got paid relatively very well. And,
Right.
And, never, there were moments when I kind of got taken advantage of, but it was like, not real, yes. I mean, I was put into certain situations that, hey, and I would talk to my boss, say, what are you doing? This is not safe, or this isn't comfortable. I don't want to, or I'm not going to do this,
Yeah.
But most employees can't do that.
Yeah, they can. Most employees are forced to do shit they shouldn't be doing. Like, my last job, I was in the bricklayers union, right? And I used to do waterproofing and caulking. And my superintendent, aka my boss, put me on my first job as a foreman. And I knew how to run the job. I knew what to do. But the estimator that estimated the job underestimated it by 2,700 feet, linear feet of caulk. So I measured it myself and found this out, called him out. He basically blamed me, and then he wanted me to paint screws on a 45-foot ladder by myself at the top of the peak of a roof.
Right. So you'd kill yourself.
Yeah. So I have a picture of this, so I kill myself. I always show everyone the picture when we talk about this shit because it's ridiculous. So I called him. I said, you know what? Get a man lift, a boom lift. Rent it out. It's your fault that you hired that estimator that can't measure your job. And it was still my fault. So I walked off. I said, "Screw you, I'm out of here." Never went to another company. He called me. "Oh, I'm sorry. Blah, blah, come back." No, you're so, this guy's, and that's just, anyways, what I was getting at, that's the state of these jobs. That's how these people have to work. These are the type of companies that people work for.
And that is something that it's not just that was a bad apple or that was a bad situation. No, this is the normal.
Yeah, exactly. This is the normal. Like,
That's why I pretty much always was a consultant. I work for myself. It's when I was younger, and I got a good skill set of being a qualified electrician on specific specialized things. I could move around and get a pretty good job, right? And be there for a while, make some money, and then go on, for about 4 years. That's what I did. I had very little stuff, and I hitchhiked and rode the rails around America between the ages of 16 and 20. And I could just cruise into a place. I would size it up, figure out where they were doing something, and I would say, "Hey, be me a guy who can do this." Usually they would say, "Oh yeah, we need you." So they pay me pretty good. I put money away. I'd have rent a little place, have a good time, be there for a few months. And then when I needed to or wanted to, I could just say, "Okay, see you later, bye." But. Sometimes they said, "But we really need you." I said, "Good. Pay me 10 times more than you're paying me right now. I'll stick around. Otherwise, see you later, bye."
Yeah.
And they would. Yeah. Up until a point when they didn't need me, and then they say, "Okay, you can see it." And I'd already have, enough money saved up to say, "See you, bye." And very few people can do that, right?
No, very few,
Right. And when I would be, doing that, I got placed in positions that was dangerous, like mining and things of that nature. And these facilities, were large situations where they had, 10, 15,000 guys working. And every week, 5 or 6 people would die.
Yeah.
And that was like part of doing business,
Yeah. Oh, man. And you know what, Bob? This is I'll give you one more example just for the listeners. This is the state of corporate hierarchy we're in right now. At a job I had recently, I'll say maybe, okay, it's the job I have now. I'll just say it, whatever. I have a team of engineers I work with. We all fix robots and machines. These people that I work with, some are good, some are very lazy, and make our job harder, right? So I didn't get promoted. I explained that to you before, Bob, how I was helping the inventory lady, I was helping the HR, I was doing all these different hats. Meanwhile, a few of these sitting there doing the basic stuff, making them look good, even though I stepped up and said, "I'll help these people." So I screwed myself, or I blame myself. But long story short, this guy that used to walk around with a computer in his hand, a laptop, and literally not do anything all day. Like he would have a robot by him and just sit there. He wouldn't fix it. He pretended he was fixing it. He would sit there. They promoted him, and when a couple of my coworkers called him out and said, "So what did you do today? Let's see your work orders. Did you do anything?" He pouted, threw his laptop and his phone, and then peeled off in the parking lot and started crying.
Right.
And guess what? He just got promoted to again.
Because he's not. Did you ever see the movie Brazil?
No, but really quick, he got promoted to management.
Well, of course, because He,
Like,
it's like I got a gig just because I was working for somebody and someone offered them the job and they said, no, I don't want to do it. But this kid here, he's really good. Give him the job, which they did. So I ran this theater department in an engineering school, which was like an oxymoron. It was only built because of politics. Someone got paid money to build a $1 million building and someone took the cut, blah, blah, blah. But
okay.
the engineers weren't arty people, so they didn't want to do that. And I started a job, and my supervisor told me, this is what you got to do, this is what you got to be, blah, blah, boom. I said, okay, fine, I can do all that. And then he said, so do you know how to drive? That wasn't the right question. He should have said, do you have a legal driver's license?
Uh-huh.
And I said, of course I can drive. He goes, well, your department gets a truck and a car. I said, oh, gee, thanks.
Oh, okay.
And I was like all of 21 years old. And I had really long hair. And so I'm waiting online to get my photo ID. And the everyone online with me are professors. And they're all PhDs and doctors and professors, right? And so on the Polaroid machine, they had this little place where you put your name and who and what you are. Anyway, so the guy before me, he had it put down he had 2 doctorates. So he was double doctor, right?
Okay.
So, and so when it came to me, the kid said, okay, but I said, so I'm, keep the double doctor. I'm Al Bob, and I'm the director of the theater department, right? And
Yes.
so he spits this thing out. It says double doctor, no problem. And it was great. So I start my job. I put out, I go to the HR lady and say, okay, here's, all the classes we're going to offer, and how much money do you have for me to go hire people to do this? And she goes, oh, you can hire 6, teachers at this much money and da da da.
Okay.
So I put out the thing, and then when I realized no students were going to sign up for these courses, I went back to her and said, you know what? I'm going to teach all these courses myself. So if this is what's budgeted, you'll pay me all that money. And then she said, sure. So I was making close to $2,500 a week, right?
Wow.
There were no students there. I used the state truck to go into New York City and run electric jobs because it had a state license plate and a big sticker on both doors saying, Newark College of Engineering, blah, blah, blah. I never got a ticket and I never got towed. And double park, I would quadruple park, And then I finished up these 2 big jobs I had a big wad of money. Plus I was getting $2,500 every week and I wasn't doing anything.
Oh my God.
I wasn't even there, right? And so I then decided, it's wintertime. I get this nice car. I'm going to take a road trip. So I drove all over the United States, down south, to Florida, Louisiana, Texas, then up and around, back across, about 3 miles. I came back springtime, and I went to get my, every year at the end of the second semester, they give you how well you did, right?
Yeah.
And because I wasn't there, then I spent every nickel of my department's budget, and I didn't have a single complaint. I got the award for being the best teacher in the state.
Oh,
So
man.
I wasn't there at all. And they gave me $30,000 for materials to build
Oh my God.
sets and stuff like that, right? Well,
Yeah.
I wasn't as cheeky to go use those materials on some other job. What I did
Right.
do was I built a replica of the Playboy Club's grotto in Chicago on the roof. And I used to have parties up there, really wild parties. And Rutgers was across the street, so I would go over to their quad and pick up interesting girls and bring them up to the grotto. So I had quite the reputation. But I got this award for being the best professor in the New Jersey State education system.
That's fucking hilarious, Bob.
And so the next year, I'm up in the grotto and I have these big binoculars. I'm peering around and I see, and it's on College Avenue, and I see this unbelievable black goddess coming up. And she's got this mini skirt, a gigantic afro. This is the 70s. I mean, she looks like, a Playboy bunny, Angela Davis. And I'm just smitten. So I run downstairs and she goes into the high school. I go up on the steps, go through the door. I hear her clicking of her high heels. Click, click, click. I follow her and I go, it's down in the basement. And she is the theater teacher of that high school. And their theater is the basement cafeteria, right? So the ceiling's about 6 feet high. There's no stage. But she's having her class down there, and they're doing a scene from Othello. Now, I've done Othello at Lincoln Center. I know what Othello is. I studied at college and all of that, right? Yep. And these kids are amazing, right? And it's true blue because Othello's supposed to be black, and everyone in the whole show is black, so it's truly amazing. And anyway, and so I'm back there. I listen. I'm just gabsmacked. I don't make any noise, and class is over, and I start applauding, right? And the kids kind of turn around and look at me, and there's this white guy with long hair and shorts and flip flops, and so they kind of leave, and she comes over. Who are you? And I said, I'm the guy who is the director of the theater department across the street from you. She goes, you're the guy with the grotto, aren't you? And I said, no, please, don't judge me by the grotto. Come and take a look at the theater. So she comes over, and this is a real theater. I mean, like a Broadway theater. Has a grid, has everything, because it was designed to teach kids how to really work in real live theater. It's not just your high school theater, but the real deal, right? It has the lighting and the newest of everything. It has a shop to build sets. It has a place to make costumes. And I go, I am going to give this to you. And she looks at me. I said, yeah, instead of you doing it in there, we'll do it here. And there were classrooms and everything. So I used all of they're both state institutions. I didn't see anything, a problem with it. Anyway, long story short, at the end of that semester, she and I are a thing. We're living together. And I've turned into Huey Newton, no longer the hippy dippy guy. I've had her dread my hair and, I'm wearing a leather jacket. I'm like a white Huey Newton. In my office, I have the zebra skin behind my chair. I got a rattan chair. I got the cross spears, the whole thing. And on the border between the Portuguese part of town, and her grandma has this church that used to be the Masonic Lodge. And did you ever see the Blues Brothers?
Yes.
Right? And there's a scene where they're getting a band together and they go, and the guy who is the hardest working man in rock and roll, he's the pastor of the church, right?
Yeah.
And people are like, speaking in tongues and flying through the air, and it's got the best music, right? That's his church. There are these 6 grandmas that are playing, you know what a Hammond B210 is?
No, I don't.
It is like the best electric organ. I mean, it's an organ that sounds like a pipe organ. Right?
Okay.
And it's electric, and it has tubes in it, and it's truly an amazing instrument. And when I worked in rock and roll, I used to fix those, right? So when the grandmas knew that, wow, this guy can fix this shit, then I was like, not only her boyfriend, I was like, yo, we like this guy. So I was, like I said, I was Huey Newton with a really cute girlfriend who was really amazingly talented. Anyway, we get an award because that's when Martin Luther King gets shot. That's when Newark goes up in flames. And so we're doing this thing. So the governor, Brendan Burns, gives us an award for being the best socially, and I kind of sneak her in as the director of the theater department at college, right? And I'm still the director, but so is she, which makes it legal for the high school to use the building in the way we were using. So everything is, and so we get, so we are the best. We are shown as the poster children of diversity, a white guy, black girl, doing all this great stuff for the black community, blah blah blah. And so anyway, so in her theater department in the basement, that all the guys who were in the theater department were gay. No, they didn't say they were gay, but you could see they were gay. And I said, you need some real guys in the theater department. And she goes, where am I? None of these guys want to be in. I said, what, are they nuts? Are all these pretty girls here? Were they crazy? So I went to the football coach and I said, listen, coach, I want to get your backfield to join the theater department. And I'm going to take them this summer into New York to Juilliard. And I'm going to let Carl Orff, who taught me how to dance, to teach them how to dance so they can dance around on the football field and not get tackled. And that football coach actually was smart enough to go, wow, that's a good idea. So that's what we did. So I had my crew of all of these big black young men, about 15 of them. They were on the football team, and we were getting them in college, through the theater department, and they were going to play football for the college. So these are my boys. This is my cadre. And, and they, sensei, yes, yes, drill sergeant, So we're in there, and this guy comes in, and he looks like a total pinhead, and he really little and skinny and glasses, and is wearing Madras shorts, and he goes, "What are all these N-words doing in this college?" And now, I just got this big award from the governor. What a great socially, I'm doing a great job of doing this. And I say to the boys, why don't you escort this man off the premises? So they pick him up and carry him out. And then they kind of, tap dance on his head. And then they come back, and about 20 minutes after, I get a phone call from my boss, right? The guy who a year earlier said I was the best employee I ever had because I spent my whole budget and no one ever complained. Anyway, so we get there, and the guy, who they tap dance on his head, he's like, really, he had a little blood here and a little black eye there, but they didn't do what a policeman would have done to them, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so this guy was the new president of the college, right?
Yeah.
And so the guy was livid, right? He wanted me arrested, put in jail, and those kids arrested, blah, blah, blah. And my boss had called the governor, right? And so the phone rings, the governor answers, and I know the governor. I mean, the governor gave me this award, I'm hey, Tom, I'm like first name of the guy. And so he gets on the phone, he goes to my boss, so is everybody there? He goes, yep. So the new president's there, I'm there, and my boss. And so,
Yep.
I explained what happened. And then the governor asked the new president. So did you actually say that in this guy's office? Did you actually know who he was? Did you know that he's like one of my prime guys and I'm trying to keep the state together? And the guy doesn't say anything, but he's still angry because he's white and privileged and there shouldn't be any black people on his campus.
Right. Yeah. He's.
So the governor goes, listen, you haven't been approved. You're just there as a stand-in. Now, if that first 6 months, if you did a really good job, yeah, you probably get it. You've only been there a week, and this has happened in the middle of Newark, and you're not sensitive to this. And the guy tries to, but it's white privilege. What are you talking about? Aren't you one of us? Anyway. And so the government says, you have to come back to the Capitol. We have to talk. And you have to leave the office right now. Go get your stuff. And I want to see you tomorrow morning in my office. Right? That guy gets up. He's pissed. He leaves. And the governor's still on the phone. He goes, so Al, are you ready to move on? Because by this time, the government has twigged who and what I am. Right?
Right.
And I say, yeah, not a problem. Yeah, I was going to have this conversation with you next week. But Maryland, she is going to take over. Of course. No, Maryland is like, everyone scratches their head when they meet you, but everyone loves her. Now, she's going to be one of I'm going to get her a job at the Capitol. No. She's not. Everything's going to stay just the way it is. We'll have a nice little plaque in memory of you, what a great guy you were. You'll still get to keep that little, your ID card. Because this guy knew I've been driving all their cars around because I used my college credit card, that they gave me on my little trip across America. He's seen me staying at the Sands in Las Vegas, So this guy, you don't get to be governor without really being somewhat smart. Anyway, he basically goes, okay, that's great. Stay in touch now. Send me a Christmas card. So, Maryland takes over. She and I spend the rest of the summer together in our honeymoon spot downtown, and then I move on. But that's the level of incompetency across the board. Now, people who can use it for the best, that's great. But that's not what happens. 99% use it for just being stupid and lazy. And that's why we are in the position we're in.
Yeah.
That's why supermarkets can't even get guys to bag. And that's why they're pressuring you to get those robots online because they need them to take over.
Yeah, right. 100%. That's a good story, though. That's a prime example.
Yep. But that's me. That's kind of what happens to me. I always stumble into. I don't even try to do any of this stuff. It just happens.
Right.
Because I'm a slave to God's unconditional love. Meaning that's what I'm here to do. So I don't go, people go, oh God, make me a millionaire. All those all those churches that talk about prosperity churches. It's like so. Yeah. Anyway, I won't even go there. But
right.
I don't do that. And I'm dead. I mean, I'm sick. I am screwed up. But do I go, oh God, please? No. I wake up in pain. I go, gee, thanks God. I'm glad to be here.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I have a whole bunch of procedures rolling up, and I don't even have money to fix my car.
Exactly. Yeah. You're thankful. You're graceful.
Right. So, and I'm here to serve. Right. That's what I do.
Right.
So.
And I'm trying. I'm doing the same. I'm trying doing my best, and
that's all you got to do is your best.
And that's all I can
you
do.
Don't try, you do. You know, don't say I'm trying. No, you do. You
Yeah.
do your best. You don't have to be perfect. No one's perfect, but you do your
Right.
best. That's all. That's all you got to do. Is your best.
Yeah, exactly.
So tell
Do
the
what
audience
I-
about robots. Give them your perspective of what's going on, like with AI. What's AI? What does AI touch you yet?
Yes, we actually, our system is ran by AI. So
Be
any order
specific.
you make,
Explain how.
so let's say you make an online order for your groceries at Kroger, right? You have to make the order. The order goes into the system. We have a huge grid with all the food in it. We call it a hive, right? Because it's like a beehive, I guess, but square. And when the pickers go to pick the orders, the AI grabs the food in the perfect order from which the order was placed online. And basically, that's a summed up version of how it works. I mean, that's the simplest version of how it works. So AI basically knows the best route to pick the food up, the best time to pick the food up, and bring it to the picker, or the bagger, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we're using it now. It knows if a bot is in error, like something happened to the bot on the grid when it's moving around. It'll stop, and then it'll exclude a bunch of cells around it so another bot can't crash into it.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, yeah, it's like a full-fledged system. I mean, we have a lot. It's not perfect, right? I mean, it's AI, I guess, but really it's just an algorithm. It's like a machine learning algorithm, pretty much. But I could say how eventually it's going to go is they aren't going to have baggers. They're going to have robots bag them. And eventually there will be no people. I would say not for a long time, but
I would say there will be no people in supermarkets and jobs of that nature within 8 years.
you think they'll go that fast?
Yes, because the technology, like Dollar General, is doing this system where all the stuff is on racks, right? And the racks have wheels, and the big tractor trailer comes in, and as soon as it picks up the Wi-Fi, the walls of the tractor trailer go up, and these racks are mechanically come down. The racks drive themselves through a special door that goes into Dollar General. The shelves that are barely have any product on it, pull away. Those other shelves that are full of product pull in, and I've seen that in a number of Dollar Generals. They're testing it on.
Okay, I never knew that. That's wild.
So if Dollar General is doing it, every other supermarket and store of that nature, Walmart, you name it, is going to do that because it is so set. They don't need people stacking those shelves.
Yeah, I know Meijer stack the shelves inside the store. They just put the robot with the product or inventory in the aisle, and then I think the robot does the rest.
Well, listen, buddy, my battery is just about to die, and I'm going to get out of here because the lunch crowd is getting thick. So.
Okay, sounds good, man. Nice talking to you,
kiddo. I'll talk to you later.
All right, talk to you later.
Remember
Bob.
to breathe.
Oh yeah, I will. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay, gang, I'm out of here. As I said, I'm in the red zone, so I gotta go. Catch you later.